So let me start with the enzymes of the DNA replication. As I have told, the first one, it is the helicase enzyme. So as I have already told, this is the one strand of DNA, this is the other strand of DNA. So if the helicase enzyme will mainly cut the DNA, and after the helicase enzyme, we have this enzyme called as topoisomerase enzyme, which generally helps to release the torsion stress that is created in the DNA. And next, we have single strand binding proteins. Later, it is DNA dependent DNA polymerase. And after that, we have DNA ligase. So at the end of the DNA replication, there are actually two kinds of DNA strands formed. One, we call it as leading strand, and the other one I'm calling it as lagging strand. Lagging strand will have this particular fragments called as Okazaki fragments. How do these Okazaki fragments are actually joined together? See, say for example, there is one fragment here, and next to the next fragment, in between the two fragments, there will be this RNA primer. So this is one fragment, and this is also the other fragment. In between these two fragments, there is this one particular thing called as RNA primer. You please make a note of it. In between the two Okazaki fragments, there will be RNA primer. The main aim is to remove the RNA primer. How do we remove RNA primer? It is mainly by the addition of RNase H protein. Please keep it in mind. Which is that protein? It is RNase H protein. So this is the one main protein which is actually helping to remove the RNA primer. So this will help to remove RNA primer. So I think it is clear now. So RNase H protein is the one thing which is actually helping out to remove the RNA primer. Why do we have to remove the RNA primer? It is because the Okazaki fragments has to be formed, the lagging strand, what it is exactly formed, has to be again a continuous strand, and that for that main reason, I think we have to add RNase H. So this completes the DNA replication. After this DNA replication, it is the process of DNA replication takes place in few minutes in prokaryotes and few hours in prokaryotes, eukaryotes, sorry. So when it comes to Escherichia coli bacteria, which is the famous bacteria which is acting as a prokaryote. Now, Escherichia coli actually have this DNA replication process for every 32 minutes. Please make a note of it. Escherichia coli, the DNA replication processing time, it is 32 minutes. So this is about the DNA replication. So after this, we have RNA. How do we abbreviate RNA? Please leave an answer. How do we abbreviate RNA? You have to keep the session interactive. You have to please answer for the questions that I tell, or else it will be like one-sided explanation. Please, how do we abbreviate RNA? I think we have got only two answers. What are the other students doing? Now, third answer. Where's G1? Good. Okay, we'll continue with this. RNA is actually the first genetic material. Now, RNA is the genetic material in the virus. So that is what. RNA is a non-hereditary nucleic acid except in some viruses. So that is, some viruses also have their genetic material as DNA. And next, RNA is used to act as genetic material as well as catalyst. How it is act as, how this RNA is utilized as a catalyst, that I'll be explaining at the time of transcription. And next, it is a polymer of ribonucleotide, and it is again made up of three components, which is already known. Pentose, that is a ribose sugar, phosphoric acid, and a nitrogenous base. As I've already told, DNA contains adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine, and RNA will generally contain adenine. Instead of thymine, it will contain uracil and guanine and cytosine. So this is the composition of a RNA. And next, RNA may be of two types, genetic and non-genetic. I think this is into the deeper concepts. We'll not go that depth because it is of not that important. We'll just come back to this. Central dogma was explained by which scientist? Who gave the central dogma phenomenon? I'm waiting for the answers here. So whenever I ask you a question, I'll be waiting for the answers. Until and unless you finish answering, I will not move. Good. The other students? Okay, now you tell me, under central dogma of molecular biology, how many actual processes are there? Is it actually 2 processes or 3 processes? Very good. It is actually 3. The first one, it is self-replication. Second one, it is transcription. And third one, it is translation. The replication part, I think we have already studied. Now we have to concentrate on the transcription part. What is transcription basically? So, as I have already told, DNA will be converted into mRNA by a process called as transcription. So how do we define this word called as transcription now? Transcription, it is basically transcribing. I want all of you to make a note of it because again we have a question on this concept. Transcribing the information from double-stranded DNA to the single-stranded mRNA. I'm going to repeat it for one more time. Please make a note of it. What is transcription? It is transcribing. Transcribing, transcribing the information from double-stranded DNA to the single-stranded mRNA. We actually call it as transcription. Now, and how do we define translation? It is the process where mRNA will be converted into protein. So that process we actually call it as translation. We'll go to the next slide. I think we have to study the processes of transcription. So as you can see on the slide here, how many stages are there in transcription? Basically, there are 3. Which are those 3? The first one, it is initiation. Second one, it is elongation. Third one, it is termination. Now, transcription will produce actually mRNA or any other RNA. Will that transcription produce only mRNA or any other type of RNAs? You're sure it is only mRNA or it will produce any other type of RNA? Actually, transcription will produce only mRNA, but there are 3 types of RNA that is acceptable, but transcription will only produce mRNA. So again, that it is actually not an mRNA, it is called as hnRNA. Let me write it here. Yeah, it is actually hnRNA. So what is this hnRNA? How do we abbreviate hnRNA? Please leave an answer. How do we abbreviate hnRNA? Please be careful while answering. How do we abbreviate hnRNA? Very good. It is heterogeneous nuclear RNA. And this heterogeneous nuclear RNA will undergo some post-transcriptional modification to produce the mRNA. So that let me discuss in the next slide now. We'll go to the next concept. Initiation, elongation, and termination these are the three main steps in this transcription. So as you can see here, initiation, elongation, and the termination, please mainly concentrate on RNA polymerase. Now, in transcription from DNA, we expect to produce DNA or RNA. It is RNA for sure. In replication, see, let me clear the concept to you again. In DNA replication, I have a parental DNA, and in the offspring, I need a DNA. I'm adding DNA polymerase. Which kind of DNA polymerase? DNA dependent DNA polymerase. But in this transcription, what I'm doing, transcription, there is a double strand DNA, and from this double strand DNA, I should get a single strand RNA. So I should get RNA at the end of the process, and that is why I'm using RNA polymerase. I think it is clear for all of you. In DNA, in replication, I wanted DNA, so that is why I was using DNA polymerase. And in this transcription, I wanted I want mRNA to be produced at the end, so that is why I'm using this particular polymerase, RNA polymerase. Now you all should tell me whether this RNA polymerase is DNA dependent RNA polymerase or RNA dependent RNA polymerase. Please make it fast. We'll go with the next one. It is DNA dependent RNA polymerase or RNA dependent RNA polymerase. We have got only one answer, that too from Archana. What are the other students doing? You have to please tell whether it is DNA dependent or RNA dependent polymerase. Well, it is DNA dependent. I'm repeating it for one more time. It is DNA, DNA dependent RNA polymerase. Why it is DNA dependent RNA polymerase? Because we have to produce an RNA from this DNA. So that is why, see, we have to produce RNA, that is mRNA, from this DNA. So this RNA polymerase has to depend on DNA. That is why I'm taking this DNA dependent RNA polymerase. That will be the correct answer. And after this DNA dependent RNA polymerase, there are two factors. One, I'm calling it as sigma factor. Please make a note of it. One, I'm calling it as sigma factor, and the other, I'm calling it as rho factor. Sigma factor is called as initiation factor, and rho factor, it is called as termination factor. So one is initiation factor, and the other one it is termination factor. Sigma factor and rho factor will act as attach and detach factors. Say for example, say this my entire hand is, say this, there is an entire stretch, there is a DNA. So here there is an RNA polymerase moving. So here there is a sigma factor. Once this RNA polymerase attached to the sigma factor, since I'm telling the sigma factor is an initiation factor, the sigma factor will detach. Sigma factor main role was to initiate. RNA polymerase has come in contact with sigma factor. Now sigma factor will detach. Now there is a synthesis of mRNA. So that is how the elongation process will occur. And the same is applicable for this thing, that is rho factor. I think next we have the information regarding this initiation. Yes, I think all of you can read this. So, RNA polymerase binds to specific DNA region and initiate transcription called as promoter site. All of you please make a note of it. The promoter site for the transcription process is Tata box, TATA, that is thymine adenine rich box. So I'm just writing it here. Tata box, you need not panic as soon as I tell the word Tata box, because majority these things we have not studied in the theory part. But Tata box, it is the one main sequence in a DNA where it only contains thymine and adenine, and that is why we actually call it as Tata box. The promoter site, a very important question for CET. The promoter site in the transcription process is the Tata box. And next, RNA polymerase is the enzyme responsible for transcription, and it has 5 subunit. Again, you have to please make a note of it. There are 2 alpha subunit, beta subunit, beta dash subunit, and omega subunit. I think this I'll explain it to you at the time of elongation process. What is the each subunit is doing. Next, after polymerase is bound to the promoter DNA, the two DNA strands unwind and the enzyme starts transcribing the template strand. So this is what you have learned now so far. How do this RNA processing here? Before going to the RNA processing, let me tell this. The alpha subunit will actually help. Alpha beta will help in the synthesis of a new strand. Beta subunit will actually gives out a stability, and omega subunit will act as a profiling. Say for example, if there is any mistake in the DNA, that will be corrected, because we have to get a perfect mRNA, because that mRNA will be converted into protein, and actually in the human body the protein is giving out a character. So that is why omega subunit actually acts as the DNA, that the profiling thing is done by omega subunit. Now, the entire transcription is done, and after the entire transcription, only the mid transcription is done. Which kind of RNA is produced? You people have to answer for this question. Now, you please tell me which kind of RNA is formed at the end of mid transcription. Here's the question, and I'm expecting the answers from you people. So please make it as soon as possible. Deepak, you can leave a text. Yes, it is hnRNA. Well, how do we abbreviate hnRNA? I think you have already told. It is heterogeneous nuclear RNA. So hnRNA is actually produced at the end of the mid-transcription. Now I told there is this post-transcriptional modification. What is happening in this post-transcriptional modification? So let me brief out this. The hnRNA has two main components. Which are those two main components? One, it is intron, which is called as the non-coding section of RNA, and exon, it is the coding section of the RNA. Now you please tell me, is it important to keep the non-coding sections of an RNA when it is not significant? We have to definitely remove this intron. So that introns are removed. No, you have a schematic representation here, I think. Yes. See, there is a DNA before the transcription. There is a transcription which has occurred, and there is the hnRNA. So this, which I'm showing this, is the hnRNA. hnRNA has both exon, intron, and exon sequences. So the main aim is to remove the intron. Why we have to remove the intron? Because it is a non-coding sequence and it has no significant value. So it is better to remove the introns. So introns are looped out. Say it is looped out first, it will be looped out and then it is cut. So that process we call it as splicing. So the post, please make a note of it. I'm repeating it. Post transcriptional modification has three main steps. How many main steps? It has three main steps. First main step, it is splicing. Second one, it is capping, and third one, it is tailing. So now you have to please repeat along with me. You please repeat. There are three steps. What is the first main step? It is splicing. What is the second one? It is
Capping.
It is
Capping.
Very good. What is the third main step? It is tailing. So now what
Tailing.
is splicing? Splicing is the removal of intron. What is capping? You please make a note of it. 7-methyl guanosine phosphate. I'm repeating it for one more time. 7-methyl guanosine phosphate. This is added at the 3' end of the RNA. I'm repeating it for one more time. 7-methyl guanosine phosphate is added at the 3' end of the mRNA. Now, what is the main significance of this capping? It will help, please write down, this is very specific function of a capping. It will help to the attachment of mRNA for the smaller subunit of ribosome. I'm repeating it for one more time. Capping will help for the attachment of mRNA produced to the smaller subunit of ribosome. A very important question for CT. And tailing is also done. How actually the tailing is done? There is a polyadenyl tail. I'm repeating it. Polyadenyl tail is added at the 5' end of the mRNA so that it gives the complete stability. Actually, the tail is actually giving the complete. Pardon me. It is actually giving the entire stability for the mRNA, and the capping is giving the attachment of smaller mRNA to the smaller subunit of ribosome. So after splicing, in capping and tailing, we get a mature mRNA. I hope it is clear for all of you. This entire schematic representation is explained with the transcription process. So now you all have to tell me how many processes are there in the post transcription modification and what are those. Please leave a text as soon as possible. I'm waiting for it. How many processes are there and what are those? Name those processes, please. You have to name the process as well. That is the main important thing. Splicing, capping and tailing. Very good. I hope everyone have answered splicing, capping and tailing. Very good. Now, what is the main importance of capping? What is the main importance of capping? You please tell the main importance of capping. Importance of capping. I hope I'm audible to all of you. What is the main importance of capping? No, I'm asking what is the importance. Yes, it will help in the attachment of mRNA to the which subunit of ribosome. You have to be very specific. Yes, attachment of mRNA to the smaller subunit of ribosome. Varsha is correct. Jeevan is also correct. Which subunit of ribosome, Deepak? Help attachment of mRNA to the smaller subunit of ribosome. I hope all of you are correct. Very good. Now, what do we add in the... Okay, now you tell me what is the importance of tailing. Please leave a text as soon as possible. What is the importance of tailing? Yes, it is giving the complete stability for the mRNA. Very good. So I hope all of you have understood transcription. Shall I move on to the next one? Translation. Am I audible? Okay, we'll go to the next one. So I think transcription is clear for all of you. Now, what is transcription? It is the transcribing the information from double-stranded DNA to the single-stranded mRNA. Now comes the main thing, that is the translation process. sorry, what is happening in this translation process, say the mRNA has to be converted into the protein. So this main things actually occurs in the translation process. So before going with the translation process, how many types of RNA are there? How many types of RNA are there? And you please tell what are the types of RNA. Make it fast. Type, what are those types of RNA? mRNA, very good. mRNA, tRNA, and rRNA, very good. Yeah, mRNA, rRNA, and tRNA. mRNA is abbreviated as messenger RNA. tRNA is abbreviated as template RNA or transfer RNA, and rRNA is abbreviated as ribosomal RNA. Now you please tell me what is the other name for tRNA? What is the other name for tRNA? No, tRNA is not called as, it is an adopter molecule, that is correct. But what is the other name for tRNA? It is actually very important for CT. What is sRNA? Yes, it is called as soluble RNA. Very good. Why do we call this tRNA as a soluble RNA? Because it is soluble in one normal NaOH. Please make a note of it. It is soluble in one normal NaOH, and that is why we are calling it as soluble RNA. Yes, we'll completely start with this translation process now. We'll not waste time. Translation process, there are again three steps: initiation, elongation, uh, translocation, and termination. Let me explain in detail. In initiation, what is happening? There is an activation of mRNA. Activation, the two ribosomes, one is the smaller and the other is the larger. This two has to be associated. The larger subunit has three main sites, that is E site, P site, and A site. E, P, A site, and the smaller subunit has the ribosomal, sorry, mRNA binding site. Ribosome, there are two units, smaller and larger subunit. The larger subunit has three main sites: E site, which we call it as exit site; P site, we call it as peptidal transferase site; and A site, we call it as amino acyl site. Will Let me show you the thing here. Say, as you can see here, there is a tRNA molecule which is coding here. Always you have to understand the methionine will get activated. Please make a note of it. Methionine will get activated to its activated uh, molecule called as formylated methionine. We call it as FMET. F-MET. So that is what you have to understand. Methionine will start the process. Here methionine is being coded. In the next slide, I think you will understand properly. So there is amino acyl synthetase, E, P, A site. You please follow the arrow mark. E site, P site, A site. First, the methionine will come and sit on the P site. The coding process is done and the FMET is released. The next one will be in the A site, and that shift to the P site. And the methionine which was there at the P site will shift to the E site. So like that, the long chain is formed like this. I hope you can, all of you see here. There is a long chain of amino acids, which we in turn we call it as protein. So the next one, yeah, I think here it is there. The end or the terminator codon, it is The terminator codon will terminate the process of translation. I hope it is clear for all of you. Let me show this slide, previous slide, for one more time. Yes, you please analyze all these things, and then you can you will get a clear picture of translocation. There are three sites, E, P, and A site, and the termination process is explained here. So basically this PPT is explaining the initiation, this PPT is explaining the elongation and as well the translocation, and this one it is explaining the terminator process. I hope it is clear for all of you. Next concept, it is genetic code. Now you please tell me who explained the genetic code, who gave this term genetic code. Make it fast. Who explained genetic code? Is it Nirenberg who explained genetic code, or who is the first person to give the term called as genetic code? The answer is here. The term genetic code was given by George Gamow. Gamow was the one main scientist who actually gave this term called as genetic code. What is that thing you have to always understand? Genetic code is always triplet, and it will always explain the relationship between the amino acid, for which amino acid it can code. And next one, there are almost around 20 types of amino acid. So please understand, there are 22 amino acids where 20 are essential and 2 are non-essential. Sorry, 20 are codable coding amino acids and 2 are the non-coding amino acids. Next one, I think this is all done in the transcription part only. That is, the mRNA will be has to code for an amino acid so that the protein activation will be there in the human body. And next, 61 out of 64 codons for only 20 amino acids. In total, there are 64 codons, and there are 61 codons which can code, and the remaining 3 codons are acting as a terminator codon. So do you remember the names of a terminator codon? Opal is the one codon that I have already told. Which are the other two names? Opal is the one name of the non-coding amino codon, OPAL. What are the other two names of the non-coding amino codons? No one knows the answer for this? Yes, ochre is one more. Opal, ochre, and another one, it is amber. Let me go over the next one. The main problem of genetic code was to determine the exact number. I think you will get it now. These are the main functions of these are the main features of a genetic code. What is that first one? It is it is punctuation. There is no punctuation, there is no comma, full stop, all those things that you have to, it has to be written continuously. If a nucleotide is deleted or added, the whole genetic code read differently. I think this you have already, you can give a better example, that is Ram has red cap. Ram is 3-letter, red is has is 3-letter, red is 3-letter, cap is 3-letter. So if you add a in the beginning of the sentence, that is Ram has red cap, I think the entire sentence will change. That is what they are trying to convey here. And here, a polynucleotide chain having 50 amino acids shall be specialized by a linear sequence of 150 nucleotides. 150 nucleotides. So this is something related. If nucleotide is added in the middle of a sequence, the first 25 amino acid. I want all of you to please just read this third point very carefully. I'll just give you a time. Please read this carefully. Is it, have you understood? Say for example, Ram has red cap. Ram and has are the two first words. I'm separating it. Red cap is the two separate words. I'm separating it. In between, if I add any three-letter word, the sequence will be same. The sequence will be still meaningful. That is what they are trying to convey here. So students, again, I have to tell you one more thing. The session is going to end now. I want all of you to rejoin it again as soon as possible, and we'll continue the next slide in the next session. I'm repeating it for one more time. Please rejoin for the session. We'll be starting the next slide. Less than 1 minute.